Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. We've had a little break. I wasn't here last week, I know, but we're back with a vengeance. I was away, I was overseas, I was teaching a Kendo seminar. Photos will be on Facebook soon about that. It was good. But I am back. We are here for Kendo Rant. Hope you've all been good, doing loads of Kendo. I certainly have. We'll jump to these questions in just a second, but before we do, YouTube magic, like, share, subscribe. I think we're over 6,500 people now that have probably started Kendo from you wonderful people liking, sharing, subscribing. Most importantly, going down to the comments, putting in a comment. Oh, what a great Kendo video, or words to that effect. If you do that, the YouTube robots, they'll find this video, they'll identify people who are about to start Kendo and they'll show them similar videos or videos about Kendo and basically press gang them into starting Kendo. So, you know, I think that's how it works. Something like that. The robots show up, make them go to Kendo and we get more Kendo people. All right? Pretty sure it's something like that. So, write a comment. Use the word Kendo. Help grow the Kendo population. More importantly, support the channel by shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the history of the universe, multiverse, galaxy, solar system, galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, multiverse, all the other things, miniverse. Microverse, macroverse, whatever. Every verse. KendoStar's the best. Now, of course I would say that, right? Because I own the place. So of course I would say that. But good news for you, everybody agrees with me. You can check our Trustpilot rating. It's an independent reviews aggregate. You can see there. We have got the highest reviews. We're one of the highest rated stores on Trustpilot, not just like Kendo stores, but on Trustpilot itself. So we're well trusted. You get the best gear, best service. All right. You're going to shop with us in the end. Don't waste your time with one of these pretenders popping up left, right, and center, selling stuff out of the bedroom. Look, when you shop at KendoStar, you're dealing with a proper, legitimate business. We've been established now for like 7-8 years. Depending where you count from. But we're properly established. You're going to get proper service. You're going to get proper decent equipment. We know what we're doing. So don't waste your money. Only buy once, don't buy twice. Shop at KendoStar.com. Okay. Right. Let's get to these questions, shall we? Okay. Good evening, Andy Fisher Sensei. Love it. During a recent, this came by email. That's why it says, that's why it's addressed like that, right? This isn't just a comment. Somebody sent this to me by email, right? During a recent Nihon Kendo kata practice, my partner was unable to Sonkyo correctly due to an injury and lowered their Kensen to Gedan. One element in the act of Sonkyo is showing mutual respect, in a form where one partner cannot easily launch an attack on the other. Therefore, should my Kensen mirror that of my opponent, i.e. lowered to Gedan, or remain elevated in the usual position to assume Chudan when I stand? I hope you'll be able to advise on this question. Published guides and internet searches tend to describe and illustrate Sonkyo between partners of equal physical capabilities, which in practice is not always the case. All right, that's a brilliant question. All right, so what happens when one party can do Sonkyo and the other one can't? Right, it's not in guides, right? Because you tend to find, obviously, the vast majority of people doing Kendo in the world are in Japan, right? So the Japanese people, and Japanese people have a sort of culture of sort of using their knees more than we do in the West. They sit on the floor, stuff like that. They have different sort of things, right? Japan's getting a bit westernized, so it might change in generations to come. But what you tend to find is that sort of you get these really old senseis that are like in the 90s and they're still doing Sonkyo, right? But we develop different problems to what they do. Certainly in Europe, from what I've seen, probably in America too. And some people aren't always able to do Sonkyo. So that's why you don't see it in the guides, because it's not a common problem that comes up in Japan. That's what I'm saying, right? Now, what should you do? Right, so the person that can't do Sonkyo, yeah, lowering to Gedan is pretty much the same thing. Essentially, you match the height of as one person goes down Sonkyo, this person lowers theirs like that, right? And then as you come up together. So the person doing Sonkyo does the normal Sonkyo. You don't need to lower yours as you stand up. You keep in Chudan Sonkyo like this, and then they'll match the height of your Kensen by going to Gedan, basically. It's not Gedan, they're matching the height of your Kensen. And then as you come up, they'll sort of match you this way, all right? And then that's the way to do it, all right? If that makes sense. If not, let me know, okay? But that's the simple and easiest way to think about it. Next one. Okay, it's a long one. It's a long one. It spans nearly 3 pages. 2 pages. Are any massive font that I'm using? That's why. Are there any rules or guidelines regarding the participation? And just before I finish this question, if you notice, I'm wearing my usual Friday hoodie, by the way. I haven't recorded like 20 of these episodes and what do you call it? Like, what do you call it when you see the future? You know, like, I don't know who I'm asking, but I haven't guessed these questions in advance, right? This is just, and I've got more than one outfit too, right? It just always lands on a Friday that this comes clean out of the wash, right? And I like this hoodie too. It's warm. It's cold in Britain. Are there any rules or guidelines regarding... This is a Kendo show. Are there any rules or guidelines regarding the participation in national teams or participation in international competitions? More detailed, is there an upper limit in terms of age, or do you have to have a certain rank to be allowed to compete in such big competitions? Of course, you wouldn't send 5th Q to the EKC, for example. It certainly depends on skills and experience, but I would expect that at least first dan would be mandatory. I haven't even taken the 6th Q exam yet, so it's a long way off. Nevertheless, I can speak English. Nevertheless, I'm curious. If I haven't miscalculated, it takes at least 3.5 years if I include this I'm new to Kendo time at the beginning to achieve first dan due to the Q grading regulations in the German Kendo Federation, DKenB. Yeah, well, don't get me started on that. Waiting time between 6th and 5th Q is 3 months. 6, yeah, I know how it works. Yeah, they keep you waiting on it. For me, this means I'll have at least 36 years. I'll be at least 36 years old when I reach first dan if everything goes according to plan. Of course, this is all very hypothetical, and it's not said that I would want to be on the national team at that point, even in my life, if I could. It's also absolutely not my focus to make it to the national team in the first place. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. As I said, I'm just curious whether you would even be an achievable goal for me at my age or not. Thank you in advance. This is when I try to read faster than my brain can compute. Which isn't very fast. Anyway. Friday. It's Friday. Right, okay. So, I'm going to summarize your question. Your question is there any rules that relate to who can participate in a national team? Okay, so from the FIK or the EKF, so the FIK is the International Kendo Federation, and the EKF, all right? Now, I'm talking about those specific federations, because they're the ones that I have the most experience in dealing with, and especially in regards to national teams. The FIK, of course, is the International Kendo Federation that looks after the World Championships, which is the championships most national teams are obviously participating in. And then the European Kendo Federation is what organises the European Kendo Championships, which is what the European and some non-Europeans teams that are part of the EKF through their area not having their own federation participate in. So, you know, there's no rules from those that state your national team members have to have a certain age or rank. Okay. So what that means is there's nothing stipulated from their point of view, from the tournament side, that the players have to be a certain rank or they have to be a certain age. In fact, that's not true. There is restrictions on age, but I'll get into that in a minute, right? There's certainly not one on rank, okay? So in terms of age, so for the European Kendo Championships, it depends on the category, okay? So the European Championships has a juniors category and it has a seniors category or an adults category. For the adults category, you have to be aged 18 or older on the day of the tournament, okay? And for the juniors, it was last year, it was changed to be, they have to be 16 or older and under 18, so 16 or 17, okay? The World Championships slightly different. The regulations up to now, and I am led to believe it is the same, is that they don't have a junior category. There's just the obviously there's the men's category and the women's category, and then there's and both of those respective categories have the individuals and teams, okay? And the participation for that, you have to be older than 16 years old on the day of the tournament, is what I understand. Now, in terms of the rank, there's no rank things at all. There's no rank limitations. So you could be 5th Q and enter. In fact, I know of a 5th Q who was, I won't give too much away, but participating in the European Kendo Championships in the junior category, to be fair, that did very well in it. So there's, you know, it depends, okay? It's certainly not you have to be at least first dan, all right? Because to be honest, especially like in the Europeans where you've got junior categories, a lot of kids start Kendo at like 14 or 15, and then of course if they start in a country like Germany where you have to take each Q grade one at a time and then spend months in between, and like you say it takes like 3 or 5 years to get to just to Shodan, then of course they can't get to Shodan in that time. So yeah, that's worth remembering. In terms of your own situation where you said, you know, it's all hypothetical and whether it's even an achievable goal for you. So if you get, being in Germany, the fastest you're saying you can get Shodan would be when you're at the age of 36. Well, as I said, you don't need to be Shodan to get in the national team. Now, I said all this, wait a sec, whoa, let's go back a sec. That's from the point of view of the tournament. I've got no idea what the requirements of the national teams in their individual countries are. All right, so some countries may have a limit on the age of the participants or the grade of the participants, all right? Some might say you've got to be certain level to be able to try out for the team. Some might say you have to be older or younger than a certain age to try out for the team. So this is, I don't know that, all right? I can tell you in the UK that in our situation, we don't have a grade specific requirement. We don't particularly have an age-specific requirement. At the moment, we're only accepting people at squad training that are aged 15 or over, who will likely be 16 in time for the World Championships. And we accept some younger ones, maybe 14, by special permission. That's it. Okay, with no upper age limit on it or anything like that, and there's no grade restrictions. So there's nothing in the World Championships, for example, or the European Championships that says somebody at a certain age is not allowed to participate in terms of an upper limit. All right, so someone in their 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s could, in theory, participate. And it happens, right? So that's that. Realistically, at 36, getting Shodan, are you going to have a shot at the national team? It's in my opinion, it's not impossible, but it'd be super hard. All right, it'd be very hard. If you want it enough, you could do it. If you want it enough, but you'll have to make a lot of sacrifices and work really hard. Okay, is my opinion on that. All right, it gets really tough. It gets really tough, especially competing at that level over the age of 35 gets really hard, right? And I was around that age when I sort of stepped down, and it was getting tough for me, to be honest. It's possible, but I had other priorities in my life that were starting to take precedent. So there you go. It's all down on you at the end of the day. Next one. Hey Sensei, I'm about 1 year in and I've been getting really bad blisters on my left foot, near the ball of my foot and on the big toe. Do you think you have any tips to prevent that? Thanks. You're not gonna like this. Keep your left foot straight. All right. Blisters are generally, there's two things. One is your foot's not used to doing kendo, so your skin's gonna have to get used to it a bit. All right. So there's a bit of that. The skin's gonna have to toughen up a bit. It'll take a while. But you've been doing it about a year. All right. But blisters almost exclusively, not exclusively, but almost always are caused by, on the left foot, by the left foot being turned out this way. So that when you launch, you're sort of twisting it on the floor when you launch, instead of just launching straight. You're twisting your foot on the floor as you try and launch yourself forward, because it's not perfectly straight. Not perfectly. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. No one's going to get a little measurer, a little protractor. No one's doing that. Unless you're in my dojo, and then we are. We've got a laser measure. No, I'm joking. Anyway, all right. It's probably that. You can alleviate it on the big toe a little bit with a bit of tape. Okay. But otherwise, it's largely about just keeping focus on getting that left foot straight, I'm afraid. It's hard work. Takes practice and a lot of it. Repetition. Hi Andy, I've recently been advised to find a sensei by a visitor to our dojo. We don't have any high grades at our club, 5th, 6th dan or higher, and while there are a few dojos nearby where I'm able to visit occasionally with senior grades, I'm not sure what to do about it. At the moment I'm working to achieve my nidan, but beyond that point, how does one find their sensei? Long term, how should I plan to develop with limited opportunities to train with senior grade Kendoka? Thanks as always. I'm looking forward to this year's Halloween edition of Kendo RANT. Halloween's just around the corner, eh? All right. I hear this advice a lot. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. But it's like, I feel like it's a really easy thing to say. And I think it's a little bit, how can I say? I think it's a little bit overemphasized. Look, right. One thing about Kendo is you've got to do Kendo properly. You've got to care about the details. You've got to follow the path in the correct way. Follow it earnestly and honestly. And try to do everything correctly. All right? There's no my style, right? That's a lot easier if you have a sensei to guide you. And in Japan, you might have that luxury. Outside of Japan, that's a bit harder. And I'll be honest with you, I lived in Japan for 8 years and I didn't have someone that I would say was my sensei. Right? I trained with a lot of sensei, a lot. Some more regularly than others. Some had more influence over me than others did. There were ones who were the sort of lead senseis in the dojo I was a member of and had a lot of influence over me at that time. But I'd hesitate to still refer to them as my sensei because I don't think that's how they think of our relationship. For a start. And I haven't seen some of them in years. So I don't think it's a bad thing, of course. I think it's a great thing if you can find a person to be your sensei and you can follow. But it's a very hard thing to do in practice, especially outside of Japan, because sort of in the Wild West, if I'm honest with you. You know what I mean? And it's like, who's the right person? And if you're going to have that sort of way of following Kendo path, it can't just be the most convenient person. It's got to be the right person. That's what's difficult about it. So for me, I have several senseis that are... I have my original sensei, of course, one who first taught me Kendo here in England, right? Of course. And then there's several senseis who I am very indebted to and have influenced me a lot. But I'm not the person that's going to say to you that it's absolutely necessary to find a specific sensei and follow that person sort of entirely. Now, that is a legitimate way to do Kendo, and it is kind of the sort of traditional accepted way. But it hasn't worked for me, all right? And that's not intentional. I haven't avoided it. I just haven't encountered that yet, perhaps is the thing. I haven't encountered that experience yet of finding a specific sensei who I felt I was really their student, not just a student, if that makes sense. And I think we fall into the trap often to easily jump on that bandwagon of my sensei. And I can think of several, and there's one particular really jumps out. I'm not going to name drop. Very well known, very, especially out here in Europe, high graded senseis who people will quickly say, that's my sensei. Oh, well, my sensei is this person. My sensei is this person. This person is my sensei. But it's easier to say that. In some ways, it's a bit like saying, I don't know, like, let's put it in a different context. Let's say I'm a musician. I'm not, but let's say I was a musician, and I was really into, let's say, playing the guitar. All right, okay. I do like playing the guitar, but I'm not very good at it. Right. So let's say that. Right. Okay. All right. And let's say I wanted to get better at the guitar. Okay, let's say I wanted to be a guitarist. And then one day I went to somewhere, maybe a workshop, and a famous guitarist, let's say someone, who do I like? Let's say Slash or Joe Perry, someone like that from a famous rock band, is giving a workshop. I don't know. It's so unrealistic. But let's just pretend, right? And I went to that workshop, and they get that super famous person gave me a tip or some tips on playing the guitar. For the rest of my life, if I then went around telling people that I was taught to play the guitar by Slash or Joe Perry or whatever, it's not quite right, is it? Right? They're my guitar teacher. It's not quite right, is it? Okay? So this happens in Kendo though, all right? There's a sensei that might come across to our country, maybe as a one-off, maybe every year, maybe once every so often, and that person will, a person will do Kendo with that sensei. The sensei will give them some tips, perhaps directly or via the medium of a seminar, and then that person will decide that that sensei is their sensei. And that's a completely one-sided decision, right? And I just don't think that's how the sort of sensei-student relationship should work. I think it has to be from the sensei's side, if that makes sense. So this has gone on a bit of a tangent, but that's why it's called Kendo RANT, right? So in my personal situation, I've been very blessed to learn from several very prominent high-level senseis, some famous, some not so, who've had massive influence on my Kendo development. And there's some who I might casually, for the sake of like conversational flow, refer to a specific person as my sensei, just to make it easier for the other person to understand that I have a relationship with that person. But do I believe in my heart that X sensei is my individual sensei and that they consider me a direct student of theirs? No, there isn't a person like that for me right now. It might happen in the future, perhaps, but I haven't got to that point. So what's the point of this? What's the point of me rambling here in relation to your question? Is that although it'd be great if you were able to have that, I don't think you should make it the be all and end all of your Kendo progress. All right? Kendo is very much, even if you have a sensei, right, they're not going to sit next to you on the daily and be like, oh, you should move your left hand a bit like this and your foot should move a bit like that and your posture should be a bit like that. Like, especially a Japanese sensei anyway. Japanese sensei is going to be like, you block a bit too much. Or something like that. And that's it. That's you for the month. Or whatever, right? Or for the week or whatever, yeah? If you're lucky, you might just get like, it was all right. Yeah, it's better before. Or something like that. Yeah? You're not going to get details. You have to figure that stuff out yourself. So Kendo's partly a self-learning journey, but I understand, especially at early levels, sort of Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, yeah, you need help with that. But you have to get that help wherever you can get it. So I wouldn't sort of fixate yourself on like, I have to find a sensei who I can latch onto. It's great if you can. All right? It's great if you can. But I think the best thing you can do is just do your best in the dojo. Try to self-study. Mitori Geiko is your friend. Watch Kendo. Understand and remember what Kendo is supposed to be and look like. Burn that into your brain and then try to imitate it at the dojo. Then take every opportunity you can to train with a senior grade Kendoka and try to get advice from them if they're willing to offer it to you. And you'll progress fine with an attitude like that. You certainly will. You certainly will. Yeah. I was hoping to wrap that up on a super poignant sort of finale, but there isn't one. Yeah. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the way I do it's wrong. I don't know. But that's where I am. That's my experience of doing Kendo over the last 20 years, is that in the beginning I had a teacher, of course, that taught me the basics. And then I went on my way and moved around a lot, and I traveled to Japan, and I moved around a bit in Japan too. So, because again, I'm not a person that stayed in the same place for a very long time, up until now. Where I am right now is probably the longest I've been in one place. So, it's yeah. All right. Interesting one. Okay, next one. First off, a big thanks on the recommendation to concentrate on relaxing during Jigeko to improve my stamina. I said that thanks in a really British way. Thanks. First off, big thanks. Thanks. Anyway, I've been paying close attention to that. And you were absolutely right. Good. When I hold myself too rigid, I just exhaust myself. Yeah. I have a tournament in 2 weeks. So that'll be the ultimate test of trying to relax in an intense situation. Yeah, it's tough in a tournament, but good luck. I'm sure you'll smash it. I'm sure you will. My question pertains to your most recent video about different ways to attack men. I've been using a few and they seem super effective when compared to regular men or kote strike. As I don't have a lot of opportunities to practice with my, I guess there's something else. My question here is, what are the downsides to those strikes versus a standard strike? Good question. They seem slightly slower, but there are other times when it's better to just attack men with no feint versus when to try something a little more tricky. Thanks. That is a great question. So I did the video, different ways to attack men. I think it was 8 ways to hit men. All right. Go and watch it if you haven't watched it. So essentially, right, obviously you've got your basic straight men strike, but it's very hard to hit that right because usually they can see it coming. So we looked at different ones. There was like Osae men, there was Harai men, Katsugi men. What other ones did we do? Like Mawashite men. We did lots of different ones. All right. And of course, yes, they've all got advantages and disadvantages. Katsugi men, for example, is a good example. Right? I said example twice, really fast. Anyway, Katsugi, right? If you bring the shinai here, you're exposing yourself. You're taking the shinai away from the situation, so you are at risk of ojiwaza or debanawaza. Of course you are. That's why, as I stressed in the video, the actual setup is more important than the strike itself. The seme towards kote, get the opponent to think you're coming for kote so that they react to the kote strike so you can hit the men. And yeah, a lot of them feature extra steps, which could be considered slower, but or in other words, there's more steps to them, which means obviously they take a bit more time from the point of beginning the technique to actually landing the strike, but also there's a lot more, there's more things in them that can go wrong, right? So that's worth bearing in mind too. So it depends. It depends. Essentially, it's not one of those things, I don't think, where it's like, okay, well, in this situation equals this technique or that situation equals that technique. There's a rough guide, which is what I'll talk about in the video, right? But, of course, sometimes it won't go as to plan, right? So the idea of that video is as a basis for you to experiment with different ways to hit men. In other words, what I want you to try to think about, especially when you do Jigeko, is, are you just starting at farthest and going, yeah, step in, hit men with no regard to what's happening on the other side of your shinai, yeah? What's happening with the opponent? Or are you giving a bit of thought as to how they might react to your movements? That's the key. Excuse me. So that's the thing that I really wanted to communicate with that, right? So it depends on the other person. Sometimes, yeah, you'll be able to hit a men just by hitting straight men, yeah? But the way to do that, you have to be able to hit directly from your kamae without any setup, to be honest, right? From here, take center, bam, yeah? And then it becomes about timing, and you're not doing it in a predictable timing or not. Whereas the others, you're disturbing the timing by adding a physical movement. Whereas with a regular men strike, it's more about disrupting the timing with your kind of seme. I hesitate to use that word, to be honest, but, you know, with your approach. Yeah. So yeah, I think the game is to just experiment with it. Just keep trying different ways, have a look how different people react, see how this works. Oh, that one works better than this one. This one doesn't work as well as that one. Well, what happens about this one if I try it in a specific way? What you can do too is what I sometimes do is I'll set myself a little goal at the practice and think, right, okay, today I'd like to work on X technique. So in my keiko, my jigeko, I'm going to try and find the opportunity to make a strike in that situation. So I'm going to try and let's just say, okay, I want to try and do katsugi men. So I'm really going to try and see if I can get that to work against everybody I do keiko with today at least once. Yeah, and I'll try that. And if I do, great. If I don't, okay, well, why wasn't I able to? Is it that katsugi men isn't the right waza choice for that type of opponent? Is it that my ability to do it isn't good enough, or the way I'm setting it up isn't good enough? Whatever. And I have to analyze that. All right, and that's the only way I'm going to improve. So it's a case of I don't think it's a case of advantage versus disadvantage. It's just a case of all techniques in Kendo and all movements in Kendo to some extent have an advantages and disadvantages, right? So it's just a case of figuring out for yourself what fits into your Kendo in how it will how you will apply that to your opponent, all right? And how you're going to be able to do it just through practice, all right? So just mess around with it, experiment with it. That's what jigeiko's for, yeah? So again, in my example, I'm going to try and do katsugi men. Well, I might receive kaishido straight away when I try and do it. Okay, well, I messed up. That's okay. That's okay. I didn't lose. I gained, yeah? But it's easy in the jigeiko mindset to slip into, you don't want to get hit, which, you know, it is sort of semi-competitive, especially doing gokaku geiko with people in your same or similar level. But that's fine, all right? It's fine. I realized, okay, well, that wasn't the right way to do it. Okay? Give it a try. And good luck in the tournament. I'm sure you'll do great. I'm sure you'll do great. Okay, three more. Three more. Okay, let's go. Okay. I know we've been talking quite a long time, but it's been a couple of weeks, right? Okay, Sensei, recently I've been experiencing a lot of self-doubt about my Kendo journey. I feel almost like I'm stuck at a lower level as I watch others who began after me improve and pass me. However, I cannot fathom quitting Kendo as Kendo has become an important part of my life. Good. In one of your past videos, I remember you talking about how sometimes you hated Kendo but could never stop. If you're willing to, I would really appreciate you sharing a moment from your own journey where you felt stuck and how you got through it. Thank you. Okay, first off, I'll talk about that in a sec, but don't measure yourself against the progress of others, all right? It's not... Oh, I've got a proper frog in my throat today, haven't I? Excuse me. Don't... Try not to measure yourself against the progress of others, all right? So people at a lower level and then they improve and pass you. That's not a reason for you to quit, all right? It's just a reason for you to keep motivated and keep working at it. Not everybody improves at Kendo at the same speed, right? And people have sort of peaks and troughs with it. They'll go get really good and then they'll plateau. They might even dip and then they'll go again. So you might have just experienced, you might be on a plateau when someone else has had a spike, and then they'll plateau and you might have a spike, all right? So that's how it works. So don't worry about that too much, all right? Don't compare yourself too much to them. There's been loads of times when I hate Kendo. Still is. Still half hated now. I do, but in an interesting way. I don't hate it. I love it. I don't even love it. I just live it. But yeah, of course, there's loads of times when I'm like, why do I do it? Like, not anymore. Not these days, not so much because it's like connected to my life, but my livelihood. But you know, back in the day when I was in Japan and I was training 7-8 times a week, I was like, why am I doing this? I've got tennis elbow, my wrists hurt, I'm tired. I don't want to get up in the morning at 5 a.m. so I can go to Asageko. because I just finished Kendo yesterday. I didn't get back till 11. I don't want to do that. I want to go and do that in an empty dojo by myself. I don't want to do kirikaishi until my fingers are numb. I think one of the hardest experiences I had was before I moved out to Japan. I think it was the first time I realized I hate Kendo. And I don't hate Kendo. I do and I don't. Before I moved out, and when I first sort of went over there on a training trip, and I went and trained at high school. I won't name drop the high school, but it's a very famous, very strong high school, which I actually didn't realize at the time that I went there, because I didn't know much, and I went there for a month, and every day, I remember I'd go to the dojo. Well, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be like, oh, another day. And I'd be like, it's okay, I don't have to go for another 3 hours or whatever it was. And then I'd go and I'd get the bus, make the bus journey to the place, walk up the road to the school. I'd be there early. And I'd go and put my burger down, and I'd go to the bathroom, and I'd go and lock myself in a toilet cubicle. And I'd sit there and just think, why am I here? And I'd have to sort of talk to myself, not literally in my head, and think, I don't want to do this. I remember it clear as day. Like, I really do. Feeling low. Like, why have I paid money to come here and torture myself like this? And I'd manage to pluck up the courage just in time to leave the bathroom, go and get changed in the dojo, pretend I was happy to be there, and go and join Keiko with kids who are 10 years younger than me. I'd try and keep up with them, trying to do kirikaishi for ages, uchikomi for ages, waza geiko that I couldn't do at the time, feeling awful about myself that I couldn't even do these techniques. And this is a time when I was supposed to be a national team member. I was like, I can't even do this. Do korigeko, and it was horrible. It felt like forever. There's times when the Sensei would come over to me and say, you know, Andy, just sit out for this. I'd be okay. And it took me a couple of days to realise he asked me to sit out because he didn't want me to drag the other kids down. Then we did Jigeko, and I couldn't, for a month, every day, doing Jigeko for an hour. Imagine how much Keiko different in an hour. I didn't hit a single ippon. Not a single one. I remember coming home every day, just deflated. And then I'd go and sit in the bath. At home, and go back to the wife's parents' house. Go home. Trudge back. Mother-in-law put the bath out, you know, got the bath ready for me, which was brilliant. And then I'd go and have a shower and sit in the bath and contemplate my life decisions and think, this is really bad. I don't know why I'm doing it. And it sounds miserable, doesn't it? But and it was really hard. It was. And that was just 1 month. You know, those kids did that. They had a different experience to that I did. But it was really humbling as well. And it was a necessary part of my step. And I had similar experiences over the years throughout that. I remember another one. This time I was with high school kids again. I love training at high schools. I love it. I think it's the best way to practice in Japan, by the way. It's to train at high schools. But I was at this high school, Gashku again. I won't name drop the school. It's another famous one. It's a different one. This time I'm like 15 years older than these kids. And of course I can't keep up with them. But I was ashamed of myself for not being able to keep up with them. right? I felt shame in that because they knew that I was like this. I was going to go and join the World Championships, which for those kids was like a dream. They couldn't possibly do that. So it was unfair of me to be able to go there and say, oh, I'm going to join the World Championships and then not be able to do the basic stuff that they did. So it pushed me and I became able to do it. Of course I did. Because that drove me to do it. And that made me happy after it. But at the time, God, I hated it. And the next day I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go and tell the sensei, can't do it today. I'm just going to say, you know what, sensei, today I'm going to take it off. I remember, honestly, I thought that. I was like, I'm going to just say I can't do it because I'm broken. My body's broken. My spirit's broken. I can't do it. I had my breakfast. I'm thinking, how am I going to say this to him? And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I joined again. Oh, and it was so hard and it was horrible. But I'm so glad that I did it. I really am, because it changed me. That was another experience that changed me in a good way. And afterwards, I felt great and I felt so happy that I'd done it. And they appreciated that I'd done it. And I appreciated that I did it. And I benefited from doing it in lots of ways, more ways than one. Right? Sometimes you just have to, you know, when you sat there and you're feeling, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to put myself through this anymore. This disappointment and this difficulty, I'm not going to put myself through it. You have to turn around to yourself and say, yes, you are. No, don't, you know, you have to turn around to yourself and say, no, we're going to stand up. All right. We're going to stand up and we're going to face it, because that's what Kendo is. It's about overcoming those difficult, hard times and doing it when you don't want to do it, and proving to yourself that you can do it when you don't think that you can. And it makes you better for it. It really does. It really does. All right. So do that. All right, we're nearly there. Let's keep going. Okay, I know this is a long video. Hello, Fish Sensei. I always look forward to Kendo Rant Fridays. Here we are. Your insights are valuable. I'm new to Kendo less than a year. I have questions about decorum and appearance. I don't recall the Japanese word. It's called chakuso and reigi or reiho. I know undershirts are not typically worn under the kendogi, and I'm also aware historically taboo nature of tattoos. I'm heavily tattooed and they are visible when I'm in my kendogi. In an effort to observe proper rei, should an undershirt be worn, or am I overthinking the whole issue? As always, thank you for your feedback. Also, good luck to England in their match against Fiji this weekend. I don't know what match that is. It's not a kendo match, so I don't know what that is. So, right. I understand what you're saying, right? You're heavily tattooed and you're concerned that your tattoos are visible from the outside, especially as in Japanese culture, tattoos are somewhat taboo. Should we try that again? Tattoos are somewhat taboo. Why are two words like that near each other? Man. Tattoos are somewhat taboo in Japanese culture. Not taboos are somewhat tattoos. Right? All right. Yes, they are in Japanese culture. Okay, they are. Somewhat taboo. But they're not in Western culture or non-Japanese culture. I don't know. Maybe in other cultures, some cultures they are. But if you're in a culture where they're not considered taboo, then I don't think you need to worry about it. I really don't. Okay? I really don't think you need to. If you're doing kendo in Japan, that might be a bit different, and it depends where your tattoos are. All right? But if they're like on your forearms and visible from here, I don't think there's much you can do about it. I don't think there's much that you could do about it, unless if you were that bothered, you could wear a kind of skin-coloured, whatever, you know, like a...
I didn't get that.
It's okay, Siri. Thank you. You can get a kind of undershirt or sleeve that matches your skin tone. Potentially, I don't think you need to worry. I don't think you need to worry. Honestly, okay. I don't think many people care outside of Japan about that. And if you're in my dojo, I wouldn't care about it. Okay, many of my dojo, not many, but some of my dojo members are tattooed and have visible tattoos, and we, it's fine. We're in the UK, so that's kind of normal. So, yeah, okay, okay. Okay, are we nearly there? This is the last one. Okay, let's go. Okay, hi Fish Sensei. Firstly, I recently received my Kamui Borger, and wow, yes. After using Club Borger for just over a year, I'm so glad I made this investment in my Kendo journey. So comfy, protective, and a lot lighter than the Club Borger, which I'm grateful for the lend, of course. Many of my Sensei and fellow Kendoka commented on how smart and sharp it looked. We now have several Kendoka in our dojo buying from KS, KendoStar of course, and constantly I'm hearing how happy they are with their purchases and outstanding service and delivery timeframes. Well done. There you go. See? It's not just me. Everybody agrees. KendoStar's the way to go. My question, probably answered before, but prompted me to think about it again after watching your videos, 8 ways to make a men strike. Friggin' great videos tonight. Thanks for sharing. Good. It's around the name format of the Nafuda / Zekken. I always thought that the 3 components were at the top, the club name, middle, your first name in Japanese, and at the bottom, your surname. I noticed your daughter, Miyabi, sorry if I spelled that wrong, no you didn't, had a name at the bottom of the Nafuda. Are all 3 components interchangeable? Is this a club thing, a personal thing, etc.? When I ordered mine through KendoStar, handmade embroidered Zekken, it's beautiful by the way, thank you. I followed traditional club name, first name, surname. It's no big drama in my head, just wondered how it's followed. I'm my first Taikai this weekend, so wish me luck. All the best, train hard. Great. Great, let's start that again. All the best of luck in the Taikai, all right? I'm sure you'll do brilliant. Okay, so the question is the format of the Zekken. Right, so a couple things about the Zekken in that video of how to strike men. First off, the Zekken I'm wearing, now I use the word Zekken because I've always used it, all right? I either use the word Zekken or if I'm speaking Japanese, I say tareneme. I just can't bring myself to say Nafuda, even though I know that's the proper word. All right? But anyway, so the Nafuda or Zekken or tareneme that I'm wearing is actually my GB national team one, which was by accident. All right, I wasn't supposed to wear that in that video, but when I arrived to film the video, my Borger, I hadn't realised, but it was I was at GB squad training because I'm the coach of our team right now, and my Borgo is still had it on from that, and I'd forgotten to change it before I went to Kendo, so I accidentally still had that on, so that's why I'm wearing that one. That isn't on purpose. Now as for Miyabi's one, so right, the sort of, okay, so the official format for Zekken is supposed to be where you're registered to at the top. So if I'm talking in Japanese format, so that could be your dojo name, or it could be the area that you live in, like the prefecture or whatever. And then your surname in Japanese underneath is the standard Japanese format, okay? Especially they usually use kanji, all right? But when I was in Japan, it would say, let's say, Fukuoka, or it might say Kumamoto, or it might say my dojo name or the company name at the top. And then it would just say Fisher, which is my surname, in Japanese, in katakana underneath. And that's it. Now, a sort of English-styled one, or a non-Japanese style one, normally has the dojo or thing on the top, either in English or in Japanese, or whatever language. And then normally it's actually the surname that goes in the middle. In Japanese, and then the surname in English at the bottom. or in Roman letters, I should say. Okay, is normally the format, but you can put the first name there as well. It doesn't matter massively. You put the name that you'd like people to refer to you in Japanese. Okay, so you can do either. Totally fine. Now, in the case of what Miyabi has, and my other daughter Nagomi, she has the same. They have, it says Preston Kenshin Kai is our dojo name, and then they have Fisher, so that's our obviously our name. And I think from memory, she has the kanji for her name on it as well. Miyabi, and Nagomi has Nagomi there. And then across the bottom, they have their first name. All right. Now, we did that in the first place so that it just didn't all say Fisher, and then people could easily tell which one of us is which. Okay. Also, because it makes it easier for people to remember their names, because their names aren't English names. So it's a bit easier for people to read their names, especially as they were children when they started wearing those zekken. I mean, they are children now, but, you know, Miyabi's coming up 16 now, so I don't know if she'd get upset if I called her a child. I don't know. Anyway, but, you know, so it was a bit easier in that regard, all right? Probably at some point we'll get her a new one that says Fisher as well, because I think sometimes what we've experienced here in the UK is people sometimes don't realise she's my daughter, which is funny, because they can't read the Japanese on the zekken, and they might not know who she is, even if they know who I am. So, you know, it's led to funny things. But yeah. So yeah, so that's it really. But there's no hard and fast rules on it. Okay, so it's not something to worry about too much. Okay. And there we are. We're at the end. Thank you everyone for your wonderful questions. Thank you for joining me in this mammoth, gargantuan episode of Kendo Rant. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar. And have a great Kendo-filled weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.